Well, unfortunately, I don't have with me here at home the handout I gave to all of you. Wow, what was that last Friday? I hope you've had a chance to look at some of that material and, of course, to read Musa. So I'm not going to try to replicate all that. I will say that one of the things that I learned from Musa, I've just never encountered this in any other text or description of Confucianism, was the role that Confucius attributed to meditation. That's brand new to me. I don't have any reason to doubt him. I think he's a very reliable source. But I'd never heard that before. My general impression going in has always been, I'd say, that Confucius was pretty structurally defined by his ideas about proper relationships and not that much concerned about what we might call inner life or inner consciousness. But I like that he brings up this real possibility. I will say this. I would still want to argue that for Confucius, the primary way that our emotions and our consciousness, our character are shaped are by proper ritual actions. And Musi talks about this some. The Chinese term is li, L-I, for ritual. In this case, while Confucius definitely thought that state rituals, overseen by governing officials, like at the change of the seasons or perhaps the death of a leading civic figure and things like this, that there were proper rituals to follow, proper things to say, proper music to be played, proper songs to be sung, proper ways to walk or to behave. And for Confucius, and I think this might even be in the notes that I handed out to you, written by my doctoral teacher in these matters, John Fenton. I think he has a line that form or ritual channels feelings, or ritual is what shapes our emotional lives in the proper ways, the proper directions. So while Confucius may well have attributed some importance to, we'll say, like sitting meditation, I think his primary emphasis is less mystical and more down-to-earth practical in terms of, we'll say, ritual behaviors, li, and the rectification of roles, living in accordance with what's expected of me, given that I am, let's say, in my case, a father, also an older brother, a scholar of sorts, and all these different roles. My guess is that Confucius, this is a guess, but I'm sure that when he thought about and talked about a teacher to students, for him, once again, the father to the son would be the kind of the model. Doesn't mean it wouldn't undergo some adjustments, but that would still be sort of the paradigm. Father to son is as teacher to students. So, one of the things that, if you can get this idea that for Confucius, things are pretty well defined. There's a structure to the Tao, and it's quite social in nature. It has to do with human beings and human behavior, human interactions. And we'll see that this will contrast quite considerably with what we learn about Taoism all too soon. I know that Musa also mentions a teacher by the name of Mozi, who would have been roughly contemporary with Confucius. Kind of a radical preacher of love, where Confucius prioritized relationships, again, within the family, but then believed that as we practice those relationships within the family properly, there's this inevitable expansion, again, to friends, ruler to subjects, and so on, that this will expand out beyond my immediate family, and but in gradations, right? The family filial piety, as it's called, family piety, will always remain paramount for Confucius. I would say for Chinese culture generally, partly because of Confucius' influence. Mozi, as Musa mentions, preached kind of an indiscriminate love. I think of the passage I preached just yesterday in church from Luke chapter 6, although the better known one is in the Matthew chapter 5, but Jesus saying, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. If you greet only those who what are you doing more than anybody else? You're to extend your love, out to all, and in so being, you become more and more like God. Well, Mozi was along those lines. In fact, I'm pretty sure, he had a much stronger, we'll say, doctrine of a personal deity who is loving and thus provides us sort of the pattern for indiscriminate and universal love. I'm very attracted to that, but there's probably something to be said for structured relationships and family and so on. I think there's some real tension there in Christian ethics. I would say in Confucius' case, Confucius really won this battle. The Moists, followers of Mozi, that school did not survive long. I don't think long after Mozi himself died, but it did provide a kind of dramatic alternative to Confucius's much more structured family expectations and roles model. A couple more things to say about Confucius, though. It's definitely the case that he did believe that in the long run, this sort of filial piety or loyalty to one's parents, father, mother, family, in these various sort of permutations and levels, should ideally kind of ripple out like, a pebble in a pond, to where that sort of deference and respect, it's hardly, like a flaming love, but it's much more, I would say, deference, respect, obedience in the proper context, and so on. And Confucius believed that this could be universally extended, at least ideally. In that regard, he's moving away from the tightly defined relationships of the family, and one could argue, believe that eventually while those will always exist and always provide the pattern, one in a sense might even transcend them to something more universal. That may be an overstatement, but this isn't. I'm really dry. Hold on. It tastes good. Combination of, I don't know what. Where was I? Yeah, there's a famous saying of Confucius's that I don't have in front of me. I probably could have Googled it, but my laptop isn't here. Anyway, we'll give you the gist. And I think it's in the handout I gave you, but it's something to this effect. Confucius saying, at 15, I think it was at 15 or, his teenage years, I set myself to learning. I became a student. And of course, in this case, a student of those ancient classics of Chinese philosophy, civics, ethics, musicology, etc. He devoted himself fully to this study. Then he kind of talks about, like, at 25, I had achieved like this level of, understanding. At 35 is like, I had it all memorized or something like that. And then we'll say it's at 45. These are approximations. At 45, I was free to behave as I wished. And I think what he's saying is, he's certainly not saying I went out and, did very un-Confucian things. It's that over time, he so internalized the virtues of the classic Chinese culture as Confucius, sort of dreamed it or idealized it. And he had so internalized that it was no longer like a structure he was trying to achieve, so much as it had become like the structure of his emotive and heart life. And so now he could live spontaneously and freely by virtue of having, over the long haul, so thoroughly internalized this way that he'd studied for decades. So that's sort of an interesting, riff on Confucius as well. I'll stop there. I hope there'll be something in these two little videos that will be of some help to you.